Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
City Attorney Doctor.
Here.
City Manager Lake.
Here.
Commissioner Reed.
Here.
Commissioner Rigby.
Here.
Commissioner Gustafson.
Here.
Commissioner Logan.
Here.
Mayor Dean.
Here. Would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? All right, just a couple housekeeping items before we get to boards and committee update. We do have the rules of procedure guidelines out in the hallway and up at this table. We're trying to help the public better understand how the decorum of the body works. And so if you need any type of reference material, you can find it on the table right in front of this little section and then out in the hallway. The other item we are going to be the staff is going to be asking to table item 11D. That's consider a resolution to vacate 6th Avenue right-of-way between Robert Street and Sanders for further discussion. I'm getting a shaking head. That is correct. Great. All right. We will first move to boards and committees. I am recommending the following citizen board appointments. The appointment of Soren Koford to an interim term on the ADA Compliance Board. Term will expire on September 1st, 2028. The appointment of Alex Tomarup to a first term on the City County Parks Board as a city appointee. Term will expire September 30th, 2028. The appointment of Michael Cloran to a first term on the Golf Advisory Board. Term will expire October 31st, 2028. The appointment of David Chadwick to an interim term on the Helena Public Arts Committee. Term will expire on December 31st, 2027. The reappointment of Christina Barbanchano to a first term on the Helena Public Arts Committee. Term will expire December 31st, 2028. The reappointment of Maxwell Hay to a second term on the Helena Public Arts Committee. Term will expire December 31st, 2029. The reappointment of Jeannie Warden to a second term on the Helena Public Arts Committee. Term will expire December 31st, 2029. The appointment of Lindsay Camerzell to serve as an interim term on the Parking Advisory Committee. Term will expire August 1st, 2027. And the appointment of Nicholas Sandow to a first term as the Railroad URD at-large member on the Urban Renewal Tax Increment Financing Advisory Board. Term will expire 31st, 2027. Is there any discussion on board appointments? All right, seeing none, is there any public comment on board appointments? Any public comment? All right, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor Dean,
Yes, Commissioner Reed.
I move to approve the board appointments as read.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Reed.
Aye.
Commissioner Rigby.
Aye.
Commissioner Gustafson.
Aye.
Commissioner Logan.
Aye.
Mayor Dean.
Aye.
The motion carries 5-0.
All right, we'll move on to item 4, consent agenda. Item A, claims, and item B, adoption of the 2026 official zoning map for the city of Helena. Are there any questions or comments on the consent agenda? All right, is there any public comment on the consent agenda? All right, seeing no public comment and no additional discussion from the commission, I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor Dean,
Yes, Commissioner Logan.
I move to accept the consent agenda items A and B.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Reed.
Aye.
Commissioner Rigby.
Aye.
Commissioner Gustafson.
Aye.
Commissioner Logan.
Aye.
Mayor Dean.
Aye.
The motion carries 5-0.
All right, we'll move to item number 5, bid awards. We have 3 bid awards. First one is the bid award for the Benton Avenue Turn Lanes Project. Director Konopke.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. This is the Benton Avenue Turn Lane Project that we brought before you a while ago. This concentrated on keeping all the improvements within the existing footprint of the roadway and right-of-way, and focusing on pedestrian safety improvements. We went out, we received two bids, and the lowest responsible bidder was from All Around Construction. And the advantage of this project will restrict vehicle movements instead of diving off into the dirt, and also provide safer pedestrian crossings with enhanced crossings there. So with that, we recommend to award the Benton Avenue Turn Lane Project base bid with alternates 1 and 2 to All Around Construction LLC in the amount of $226,660.98, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right, questions or comments from the commission? Yes, Commissioner Reed.
Thank you, Mayor Dean. And for Director Konopky, I'm trying to see if there is an easy visual. I know this project has come back a couple of times.
You put that,
There is that on page,
it's on here, but it's not on the screen.
it looks like 232 of our packets. There is a bit of a map. Can you just explain for the people watching and for the public what exactly we are doing in those 3 spots?
So Elmwood currently has a rectangular rapid flash beacon replacing the yellow flashing beacon. At that intersection, we'll be doing basically curb ramps and curb work along there to direct the stormwater, and then the curb ramps to ensure that they're ADA compliant. Meadow will be installing ADA ramps on either side of Meadow, along with curbing for, I can't remember the exact length, on each side of the street. That's one of those areas where we'll be having the additional turn lane put in, striped in. We were able to accomplish that just by using the existing roadway width and narrowing the lanes a little bit. And then Oakwood, we're again ensuring that the pedestrian ramps are to code and putting in a base for a potential future rectangular rapid flash beacon, and again with curbing to channelize the vehicles instead of them wandering within the lanes.
Other questions or comments? Director Conby, one question I had, right now there is, I believe, fiber that is going in there. And so the path is getting a little bit beat up on the west side of the road. Will all of that be complete and corrected before this construction starts?
Mayor and Commissioners, it should. I was told this morning that they should be complete with that fiber work this week, hopefully.
Okay,
Maybe next week. So
great. Well, I'm very excited this project is finally getting bid out, so. All right, seeing no other discussion, is there any public comment on this item? Any public comment? Madam Clerk, any public comment online?
Mayor, I have no public comment online.
Okay, seeing no public comment, any final discussion? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor Dean.
Recommend award of Benton Avenue Turn Lanes project base bid with alternates 1 and 2 to All Around Construction LLC in the amount of $226,660.98.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Reed,
Aye.
Commissioner Rigby,
Aye.
Commissioner Gustafson,
Aye.
Commissioner Logan,
Aye.
Mayor Dean.
Aye.
The motion carries 5-0.
All right, we'll move on to item B, bid award for the 2025 Water and Sewer Main Replacement Project number 23-10, City Engineer Clark.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. I have 2 for you this evening. The first one is the bid award for the 2025 Water and Sewer Main Project number 2310. That's Lawrence Avenue and 8th Avenue. Lawrence from the top of the hill here, right down to Park. So we're going to get to know and love that one. And then the other one is 8th Avenue from Dakota Street, I believe, to Hoback. And we received 3 bids on the project. The low bidder was Northwest Landworks out of Spirit Lake, Idaho for $894,000 and change. And I'm also pleased to let you know that lately the bids have been coming in quite a bit cheaper. And I think that's because the ARPA funds, post-COVID funds, are starting to dry up, and contractors seem to be a little more hungry for work. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
All right, questions or comments from the commission? Yes, Commissioner Rigby.
Thank you, Mayor Dean. That was just one of my comments, I guess, was the difference in bids. And I guess, is that kind of what we're seeing? Because I saw that in the well project too, is way underbid. The engineers.
Mayor and
estimates.
commissioners, we're not only seeing low bids, but we're also seeing quite a few more bidders than we have before, and some out-of-town and out-of-state bidders, as indicated with the low bid on this project. It's good news for us. We can do more with the tax money we get.
Yep.
So.
Great.
Follow-up.
Yep, go ahead.
Have we worked with them before?
We have not, but the
Alright.
references all checked out.
Cool.
And we have to take a leap sometimes when we have a new contractor and everything sounds good.
Great. Yes, Commissioner Reed.
Thank you, Mayor Dean. Just the question that nobody wants to ask and nobody wants to hear the answer to, do we have rough estimates on when the Lawrence and 8th projects will begin and roughly how long they may take?
Mayor and commissioners, we have to get them under contract first. Then we'll talk with the contractor and see what they think. Again, it's a new contractor. I suspect the reason why some of the issues we're having with the water main up there and the sewer main is because they're shallow. That typically means there's a bit of rock in the ground. So I think we can probably expect some rock. I would think that the project from start to finish would probably be 3 months or so.
All right, any additional questions? Okay, is there any public comment on this item? Any public comment on bid award item B? All right, seeing no public comment, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to award, whoops, that's the wrong one. To move to award the groundwater, that's also the wrong one. Sorry, scrolled too far. I move to award the 2025 water and sewer main replacement project number 23-10 to the lowest responsible bidder, Northwest Landworks, in the amount of $894,374.43.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Reed,
Aye.
Commissioner Rigby,
Aye.
Commissioner Gustafson,
Aye.
Commissioner Logan,
Aye.
Mayor Dean.
Aye.
The motion carries 5-0.
All right, we have Mr. Clark again for the bid award for groundwater wells infrastructure project Phase 1A Citywide Wells Project number 24-25.
Thank you, Mayor and Commission. This bid award is for drilling of groundwater test and production wells to augment the city's water supply and perfect the groundwater reservation signed to us by the Supreme Court in 1993 or 4. We have 3 locations. One's on the frontage road, one is directly across from the Missouri River Water Treatment Plant, and the third is out by Crystal Springs in the Stone Meadow subdivision. Again, on this project, bids were happily quite a bit lower than we thought. I think that's not only due to the end of the ARPA funds, but also the recent, I guess you would say, toss-up on the exempt wells. I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with that. But again, we received 4 good bids, and the low bidder was from Coldwater Drilling with a bid of $2.7 million, give or take. And I believe they're out of Arlee, Montana.
Any questions or comments from commissioners? Commissioner Rigby.
Thank you, Mayor Dean. I guess kind of the same question again. Have we worked with them before?
Commissioner and Mayor, I have not worked with them, but again, their references checked out very well, actually. Even better than the previous contractor that we haven't worked with. And I have no reason to think they won't be great to work with.
All right, perfect. And then, yeah, happy to see 4 bids, because the first time and second time and third time I think we got 1. So yeah,
Mayor and Commission, it's always nice to have more than one bid.
Yes.
And be at the whim of the contractor, at the mercy, I should say. Yeah.
Great. Any other questions? All right. Is there any public comment on this item? Any public comment? All right, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor Dean,
Yes, Commissioner Reed.
I move to award the groundwater wells infrastructure project, Phase 1A, citywide wells, project number 24-25, to the lowest responsible bidder, Cold Water Drilling and Pumps, in the amount of $2,691,780.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Reed,
Aye.
Commissioner Rigby,
Aye.
Commissioner Gustafson,
Aye.
Commissioner Logan,
Aye.
Mayor Dean.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we will move on to item 6, communication and proposals from commissioners. Any thoughts from the commission? All right, seeing none, we will move on to the report of the city attorney. City attorney.
Mayor, Commissioners, I have nothing to report tonight. Thank you.
Report of the city manager.
Mayor and Commissioners, I have nothing to report tonight. Thank you.
We are cruising, guys. This is great. Communications from Helena Citizens Council. Mr. Kuiper.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. For the record, my name is Ben Kuiper. I'm the chair of the Helena Citizens Council. I don't have much to report tonight. I just want to let you all and the public know that the HCC voted to move their regular time from the fourth Wednesdays of the month to the fourth Thursday of the month at 5:30. We feel that will be more accessible to the public and fall better in line with the city's calendar with the movement of the admin meetings. So other than that, that's all I have. So unless there's any questions, that'll end the report.
Any questions for Mr. Kuiper? Great,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Okay, we will move on to our regular items. First one is item A, consider a resolution further amending resolution number 20886, which created the City of Helena Planning Commission. Director Brink.
Good evening, Mayor and Commission. So I do apologize for having to bring this back before you a month later, but we are where we are. Last month, well, actually in January, we brought this resolution for amendment that increased the membership of the Planning Commission from 3 members to 7 members, as you recall, as well as fully charging the Planning Commission with all duties and responsibilities as outlined in Montana Land Use Planning Act. What we failed to do was to think about the transition and the sunsetting of existing boards and commissions and what that looks like with current applicants currently going through the cycle. And what we were trying to do was to address the issue that we're going to have with the Consolidated City County Planning Board. With Zoning Commission, Board of Appeals, or Board of Adjustments, we're able to manage those relative to process. We can sunset those as we need. As a Consolidated Planning Board, the county has to plan ahead and plan accordingly and make changes so they can reseat that for their use. So that's where the issue came. So we do have some applications that are currently going through the cycle. We were afraid that those that were subdivision related may be caught in the transition and having to wait another month or two until the new processes got established. So that's what this additional amendment to the original resolution does. It charges the Planning Commission with all the responsibilities and roles that both the Zoning Commission and the Planning Commission or City County Planning Board had relative to subdivision zoning and related applications that went through those boards. So to conclude, staff recommends that the Commission move to adopt a resolution further amending, unfortunately, resolution number 20886 to add all review, hearing, and consideration responsibilities previously assigned to the Consolidated City County Planning Board and the City of Helena Zoning Commission for any subdivision zoning and related land use applications that are deemed complete prior to full implementation of MLUPA. And with that, I'm open to any questions for this one.
I don't have my microphone on, sorry. Is there any public comment on this item? All right, seeing none, I will entertain a motion.
Mayor Dean,
Yes, Commissioner Logan.
excuse me, I'd move to adopt a resolution further amending resolution number 20886 to add all review, hearing, and consideration responsibilities previously assigned to the Consolidated City-County Planning Board and the City of Helena Zoning Commission for any subdivision zoning or related land use applications that are deemed complete prior to full implementation of the Montana Land Use Planning Act.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any final comments from the commission? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Reed,
Aye.
Commissioner Rigby,
Aye.
Commissioner Gustafson,
Aye.
Commissioner Logan,
Aye.
Mayor Dean.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
All right, we will go ahead and move on to item B. Consider first passage of an ordinance updating the City of Helena zoning ordinances by amending chapters 1, 2, 3, 5, 9, 16, 22, and 25, and creating chapter 27 of the City of Helena zoning ordinance, title 11 of the Helena City Code as required under title 76, chapter 25, Montana Code annotated, and known as the Montana Land Use Planning Act. Senior Planner Ray.
Thank you, Mayor and Commission. I'm going to settle in and make myself at home.
Perfect.
Don't mind me as I bring
Nope.
up the presentation.
You're just
Give
fine.
me one moment. All right. I will present from down here so that I have room for all of my stuff up there. Thank you, Mayor and Commission. This evening, as mentioned, you're going to be hearing a presentation on amendments to Titles 11 and 12 of the City Code. That's our zoning and subdivision regulations, respectively. I have consolidated the presentation into one larger presentation for both items, just so that you're aware, although you will still be taking individual action on each item in turn. So by way of introduction for folks who might not be aware of what we are undertaking here and why we are doing it, I just want to start out this presentation by talking about the Montana Land Use Planning Act, or as I might call it, MLUPA, in the course of this presentation. Back in the 2023 legislative session, Senate Bill 382 was passed, made into law, and there are 10 jurisdictions across the state, ours being one of them, that is required to comply with the letter of this new law, which sets forth a whole new regulatory regime for land use. This law required us to do a few things and do them within a defined timeline. So we first had to adopt a land use plan as our comprehensive plan to replace our growth policy that we'd had for a few years. And then we also are required to make the necessary amendments to our zoning and subdivision regulations to ensure that there is consistency between those regulations, the state law, as well as conformance with the land use plan. And we're required to accomplish all of this within a 3-year window of time. So we have to ensure that these new codes are on the books by May 17th of this year. This is important because we need to make sure, as we would in any jurisdiction, that our zoning and subdivision regulations do conform with our plan and that they do align with state law. There needs to be consistency there. And what is beautiful about this new law is that in theory, it should streamline all of our processes going forward and reduce some of the regulatory burden on developers. The land use plan for the uninitiated, as I mentioned, it is a comprehensive plan. It is a document that sets forth our vision for the next 20 years for the community. It is aspirational and not regulatory in nature, and that's an important distinction to make because these codes that we are looking to amend are where the rubber meets the road. They are actually regulatory and binding on individuals. And now I'm just going to get into what these targeted amendments are. And I apologize because I realized mere minutes ago that this slide is actually missing Chapter 9. So in addition to the 7 chapters shown before you on the screen, Chapter 9, which is the Downtown and Transitional Residential District chapter, is also being amended minimally. And I'll get into that a little bit more as I proceed in the presentation. The biggest 2 things that you're going to see in Title 11 amendments are that we are striking references to our Board of Adjustments and the Zoning Commission and replacing those references with the somewhat newer Planning Commission that Director Brink was just presenting on. They will be assuming the review and decision-making authority for the items that historically had come before those 2 boards. And the code also will specify exactly who the commission is. Obviously, they are established via that resolution. However, this just further speaks to their powers and duties as a board with respect to making recommendations to yourselves regarding development, adoption, review, and the approval or denial of zoning regulations and zoning map amendments. Additionally, they are the appeals board for the planning administrator's decisions. The planning administrator is an individual who is defined in our code as the community development director or their designee. They're responsible for ministerial reviews on land use applications for what you see listed here. So they will be reviewing conditional use permits, variances, and site-specific land use reviews for things like preliminary plats and commercial site reviews. And within the state law, there is an appeals process for those planning administrators' decisions, as you see outlined here. So in the first instance, if somebody wishes to, appeal the planning administrator decision, that appeal would go to the planning commission. They'll hear the case de novo. That would then go along to the city commission if there's a further appeal, and then to the district court from there. We also are changing Chapter 2. This is separate from MLUPA specifically, but in the 2023 session, Senate Bill 528 was passed, which necessitated that jurisdictions establish ADUs as a use by right in residential districts. We had to press pause on bringing this specific language to you sooner because it was held up in litigation, unfortunately. So now we are actually able to codify what an accessory dwelling unit is as a residential use. So the Senate Bill 528 gave a definition for what an accessory dwelling unit is. It also established that if it is a detached or attached unit, that it can't exceed 75% of the single family home on the same parcel, or 1,000 square feet, whichever is less. There can only be one per lot, and we did, though, establish a dimensional requirement that it not exceed 40% of the principal residence or the entirety of a basement or attic if it is internal to the existing single-family dwelling unit. The whole idea here being that it is subordinate in nature to a primary residence on a parcel. Additionally, in Chapter 2, there were 14 different housing strategies defined in MLUPA for means for jurisdictions to try and promote the development of housing and reduce the regulatory burden to the development of housing. And one of those was to include a single room occupancy use. So we basically took our old historic boarding house definition and updated it to become a single room occupancy use and to bring it more in alignment with sort of modern definitions for uses. We also amended supplemental requirements in Chapter 2 so that we're more permissive of the location of legal dwelling units in residential district, or sorry, pardon me, commercial districts, where historically they would have had to be above a commercial use. Now we're trying to allow them to be placed elsewhere on the site, but ensure still that a commercial use is what's actually fronting a right-of-way. The off-street parking chapter we also are updating because state law and our land use plan both speak to reducing parking requirements for residential units. So now our codes will reflect those requirements and we will only require a minimum of 1 parking space per dwelling unit off-street. I should note that this does not preclude developers, of course, from providing more parking beyond that. It's just this is now the new floor. Now I'm going to talk about subdivision regulations in Title 12. So there are 6 chapters within Title 12 that are being amended, as you see here, Chapter 7 being an entirely new chapter to the code. So what you see throughout Title 12 is that similar with the changes to Title 11, you're going to no longer see reference to the City County Consolidated Planning Board. That board's duties are being replaced by the Planning Commission. There's also reference throughout the code to the particular section of Montana Code annotated that is the subdivision regulation portion of MLUPA. As regards the actual review of subdivision applications, there are new preliminary plat procedures that are going to be in place about how we review and decide the applications. Will in the first instance go to the planning administrator. There are exemptions, just as there were in the Subdivision Platting Act, as far as what plats come forward that are exempt from subdivision review. There are review procedures for phasing of subdivision plans, and there are new timelines that are required under MLUPA. I did want to note here that in 2023, there was also another bill, Senate Bill 170, that was passed to allow for administrative minor subdivisions. So all the new actions in MLUPA are ministerial in the outset, pretty much. But this is a distinct process that we have to retain because the actual requirement for a developer as far as what is submitted in an application is a lesser burden than with just the standard MLUPA subdivision review process. So that is being retained and it is reflected in the amended code that is in the ordinance you received. Just wanted to put that out there. As far as final plat procedures are concerned, they're by and large going to be very similar to what we have on the books already because the city commission ultimately will still be the one to approve a final plat on a subdivision. As far as public improvements are concerned, MLUPA is also very prescriptive about how we address the public improvements, and it's not really dissimilar to what we do right now. It's just that I think it gives very clear language about what is permitted. So it does include options for folks to obviously install everything before final plat, any improvements that need to be made, but they can, of course, bond or provide security in lieu of immediate construction before final plat. And enter into an improvement agreement. They have 18 months within which they have to get those improvements completed under this state law. So that is reflected in the code amendments before you. There will still be a park dedication requirement, but state law is quite clear about there being certain exemptions to when dedication is required and putting limits on how much has to be provided. There's a maximum requirement. We will still be retaining a review by the Parks Department and City County Parks Board as part of the park dedication process. And then there are state law requirements as regards variances and amendments to subdivisions. So if there are any variances being applied for, those variances will be reviewed and decided upon by the planning administrator ministerially. If there are amendments to subdivisions that have been approved, those will go to the planning commission to review and decide on the amendment requests. And there are particular requirements out of MLUPA as pertain to fees and violations and the validity of the subdivisions. And last but not least, of course, the appeals chapter that I mentioned before. So we do have a new appeals process for subdivisions that is outlined in Chapter 7. This is almost verbatim from state law, and it is basically identical to what I previously mentioned about how the review is conducted by the planning administrator, goes to the planning commission, city commission, and then district court if it is appealed to that level. While we were making amendments to some of our zoning codes, and we're opening up particular chapters, we wanted to address some cleanup items that we've had for a little while that we knew needed to be touched because there may be some inconsistencies or lack of clarity in the code as written. And then additionally, we wanted to make sure that any amendments that we brought forward that were cleaning up certain things would also tie back to requirements set forth in MLUPA or tie back to our land use plan. So everything that you're going to see presented here does, again, tie back to that. So as far as these cleanups in Chapter 2 are concerned, we had in recent years amended the land use table that you see a snapshot of on the right. There were certain uses that were new that we had to incorporate, particularly pertaining to marijuana-related uses, and there were certain uses that were struck as we were trying to consolidate uses or whatever the case might have been. We also had to update land use definitions, but there was some inconsistency between those sections of the code, so we wanted to try to fix those inconsistencies and reorganize different uses into appropriate categories. Tied to that, and I'm going to jump to the second point on this slide, there is a table in Chapter 22, the parking chapter, that lists out the minimum parking requirements associated with different uses. So when those changes were made in Chapter 2 previously, they hadn't made corresponding changes in Chapter 22. So we wanted to rectify that issue, and that is what happened there, in addition to the residential parking changes I previously mentioned. And Chapter 9, which I mentioned before, that one is the downtown district and transitional residential district design standard information. We had a separate definition for building height in Chapter 9 that was different from the height definition that is applied uniformly across all of our other zoning districts and is found in Chapter 4. So we are defaulting to the Chapter 4 definition. We just struck the Chapter 9 one so that there isn't a question and there's consistency throughout our code. And then we also have the new commercial site review chapter, Chapter 27. And this basically is just a codification of a process that was rolled out last year that is supposed to help streamline the review of plans for new developments. So basically, we bifurcated the zoning site plan review work from the rest of the building plan review that is otherwise undertaken, as you can see with the flow chart that's on the right of the slide. So this is one that I know Director Brink would be more than happy to answer questions on if it comes up. And now I just want to touch on public comments and notice for these ordinance changes. So the Planning Commission held a work session in January, on January 22nd. We noticed the meeting online as per normal with the city calendar. At that meeting, there were no members of the public present and no public comment was provided. This was followed up by a public hearing on February 10th that was noticed on the city website, of course, but also legally noticed in the independent record on the 27th of January. We also had no members of the public at that meeting and no public comment received. As far as meetings before you, the City Commission, obviously we had an administrative meeting last week just to sort of tee up this conversation with you and give you a little background in advance of tonight's meeting. We did receive some public comment in advance of that, which is shown here regarding the commercial site review process and items that were deemed by particular developers to have no nexus to MLUPA for compliance purposes. But I do want to note that for tonight's meeting, we did notice obviously the meeting online and it was legally advertised in the independent record on the 21st of February. And just so people know where we're headed with this process, as I mentioned, we have to be compliant with the state law by May 17th. So we will have a final passage public hearing on April 6th. And that concludes my presentation. The motions before you tonight, I will just quickly run through them for you. They read slightly differently from what was in the staff report, staff memo, I should say. And the first is pertaining to Title 11, and it's moved to approve first passage of an ordinance updating City of Helena zoning ordinances by amending chapters 1, 2, 3, 5, 9, 16, 22, and 25, and creating Chapter 27 of the City of Helena zoning ordinance, Title 11 of the Helena City Code as required under Title 76, Chapter 25, Montana Code annotated, and known as the Montana Land Use Planning Act, and to set a public hearing for April 6, 2026 at 6 p.m. And lastly, this is the motion for Title 12, the subdivision regulations, and it is moved to approve first passage of an ordinance updating the City of Helena subdivision regulations by amending chapters 1, 2, 4, 5, and 6, and creating Chapter 7 of the City of Helena subdivision regulations, Title 12 of the Helena City Code as required under Title 76, Chapter 25, Montana Code annotated, and known as the Montana Land Use Planning Act, and to set a public hearing for April 6, 2026 at 6 p.m. And that really concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have of me, and Director Brink is also willing to do so as well.
Thank you, Ms. Ray. Questions and comments from the commission? Yes, Commissioner Gustafson.
Thank you, Mayor Dean, and thank you, Senior Planner Ray. A lot of great information there. And I apologize if some of these questions I've already asked, but I'm going to just continue to ask them until they stick. You mentioned that the land use plan is aspirational, not regulatory, and then these pieces are the regulatory pieces, and that the goal of all this is for cleanup and to become in compliance, and that there will be a second bigger public process for drawing some of those aspirational pieces from the land use plan and putting them in there. So I'll get to a question. When approximately can the public look to be involved in that aspirational piece, bigger change piece? Thank you.
Mayor, Commissioner Gustafson, thank you for actually bringing up the next phase of the zoning code updates. I did not touch on that in my presentation this evening, though it was discussed last Wednesday at the administrative meeting. So we actually have already had internal meetings with our consultant team from House Levine about this next bigger phase of the zoning update, and we are planning for later this spring to have a big kickoff event. And it's the scope of this next phase of updating our zoning regulations to better align with our land use plan is going to be probably about as exhaustive as the land use planning process in many respects, and it's going to take us until August of 2027. So we will be reaching out to stakeholders to engage with them and the community in coming months.
Great, thank you. I got more.
Okay.
Again, I noticed, it's mostly cleanup, but I did see that, the parking changes, those are kind of significant for some folks, that they're being reduced. Are there other things that might be more impactful for residents now that they should note besides the parking changes? I'll ask a specific question. Did the building height downtown change, or it was just a cleanup?
Mayor and Commission,
Sorry.
I'm sorry, Commissioner.
No,
Christine.
I'm bad at asking questions. Go on.
Mayor and Commission, with respect to downtown, there has not been and will not be, with the changes proposed, any height limitation for the district.
Okay, so that one was a definition. So I'll go back to my first question. Are there other things that residents might want to note that will change how they might do things in this next year before the next phase happens?
Mayor and Commission, fundamentally no. Any other changes that might impact residential property owners with respect to, say, changes to dimensional standards or greater allowance of particular types of uses across districts, like if we wanted to introduce the ability to have multifamily housing that we define as 3 units or more on a parcel in an R1 or R2 zone property, that might come down the pike. I'm not saying that that will happen, but that's an example of a change that could be considered that was recommended in Malupa as part of the 14 housing strategies. So there's yet more to come, and I would encourage folks to be willing to have those conversations with us so that we get a code on the books that aligns with what members of the community are hoping to see.
Thank you.
Other questions? Commissioner Rigby.
Thank you, Mayor Dean. More a comment than a question. Just great job doing a lot of work in a little bit of time. Also, while some questions aren't answered, so this is a lot, so great job.
Great. Other questions or comments? I have a question and a comment. First, on the ADU piece, this is a little bit of a hypothetical, but say someone had a large enough lot, and now that Malupa defines what an ADU is, we did not have that kind of definition before. If someone was interested, could they build another house on the property and then define the current primary residence as the ADU if it succeeded, like the let's say the lot coverage requirements that we're considering here, or that the new law requires?
So, Mayor and Commission, if I'm understanding the question, you're looking at it from the view of somebody trying to do the inverse of what the law sets forth. And I think that the answer would be no, that the existing residence is going to be classified as the primary residence. I mean, I guess there could be, I would have to defer to Director Brink on that one. We are very collegiate in our department and usually go through these questions very academically amongst all of the planners. But I'm thinking on my feet, and I'm thinking perhaps no, although I will defer to Director Brink. I do want to note, because I failed to bring this up in the course of the presentation, invariably I was going to forget one item here or there, and I want to make it clear that there are other very prescriptive standards that we have to adhere to with respect to ADUs as per that bill that I mentioned. Chief amongst them, I think, are the fact that we can not mandate that the developers of an accessory dwelling unit as it is defined in the law actually provide off-street parking for that dwelling unit. We also cannot require them, as we ordinarily would with the establishment of a new primary residence, to install a sidewalk adjacent to that property. There are some other criteria, things that we cannot do, so it's very prescriptive, the sort of preemption bill. But what I would note is that under our current regulations, not looking at trying to develop an accessory dwelling unit on its own, we actually had codes that were far more progressive than what the law would allow for. As I think a number of you already are aware, we don't have any single-family zoning districts, and we haven't for well over 12, 15 or more years, I think. Long predates my time with the city. So if somebody in this instance, what you were talking about, had a smaller home on their parcel and wanted to develop a larger one that meets with district dimensional standards, they can actually shoehorn it into their lot. By all means, they're welcome to do so by right. There's no question of that. You cannot, though, have more than one ADU on a lot. You cannot have a lot that an ADU sits on where there are more than a net of 2 units, basically. But our codes as written currently allow for 2 residential units by right anyway, regardless of shape, size, appearance, or otherwise, so long as you meet district dimensional standards. And even in our lower density residential districts, the R2 and R1 districts, you can potentially have additional units beyond those 2 if you procure a conditional use permit. So we were kind of ahead of the curve even before the 2023 session.
I'm just curious because we have so many essentially properties that look like a double lot, and then you have another home now going up on it that is much larger than the original. So that's very helpful. The comment I was just going to make was Kalispell is just now getting to the point where they are adopting their land use plan that we did back in November. And so hats off to community development, and thank you to the community for being so involved, because we are very much ahead of the curve in terms of getting compliant with the new law, and then getting to have good conversations this spring where the rubber actually meets the road. So hats off to all of you, and thank you. All right. Seeing no additional discussion, is there any public comment on item B? And then we will move to item C after we make this motion. So any public comment on item B? Madam Clerk, any online?
Mayor, I have no public comment online.
Okay. Any final discussion from the commission? Yes, Commissioner Reed.
Sorry, the change to the motion, because we can't see it anymore, was it just adding the date of the hearing?
Yes, set a public hearing date for April 6th at 6 p.m. All right. I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor Dean?
Yes, Commissioner Reed.
Okay, I think I got it here. I move to approve first passage of an ordinance updating City of Helena zoning ordinances by amending chapters 1, 2, 3, 5, 9, 16, 22, and 25, and creating chapter 27 of the City of Helena zoning ordinance, Title 11 of the Helena City Code as required under Title 76, Chapter 25, Montana Code annotated and known as the Montana Land Use Planning Act, and setting a public hearing for April 6th at 6 p.m.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any final discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Reed.
Aye.
Commissioner Rigby.
Aye.
Commissioner Gustafson.
Aye.
Commissioner Logan.
Aye.
Mayor Dean.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
All right, we will now take up item C. This is consider first passage of an ordinance updating City of Helena subdivision ordinances by amending chapters 1, 2, 4, 5, and 6, and creating chapter 7 of the City of Helena subdivision regulations, chapter 12 of the Helena City Code as required under chapter 76, titled 76, chapter 25, Montana Code annotated, and known as the Montana Land Use Planning Act, and setting a public hearing date for April 6th at 6 p.m. So that this is part of the presentation that we just heard. Are there any questions on item C? All right, seeing none. Is there any public comment on item C? Madam Clerk, any online?
Madam Mayor, I have no public comment online.
Okay, any final discussion? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion.
I will entertain a motion to move to approve first passage of an ordinance updating City of Helena subdivision ordinances by amending chapters 1, 2, 4, 5, and 6, and creating Chapter 7 of the City of Helena Subdivision Regulations, Title 12 of the Helena City Code as required under Title 76, Chapter 25, Montana Code annotated and known as the Montana Land Use Planning Act, and setting a public meeting April 6th, 2026 at 6 p.m.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any final discussion? Okay, seeing none. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Reed,
Aye.
Commissioner Rigby,
Aye.
Commissioner Gustafson,
Aye.
Commissioner Logan,
Aye.
Mayor Dean.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
All right, we'll move on to item D. Consider a resolution establishing a funding request process for proceeds from the former consolidated Central Helena Urban Renewal Area. Senior Planner Ray.
Thank you, Mayor and Commission. Just one moment while I bring up this presentation. And this one I'll switch positions for. Thank you, Mayor and Commission. As noted, you're going to be discussing the Consolidated Central Helena Urban Renewal Area Resolution this evening. The purpose of this resolution is to establish a means by which individuals in the community can actually request funds, any of the proceeds from the former Consolidated Central Helena Urban Renewal Area. And I apologize in advance. It is likely that when I'm talking about these historic urban renewal areas, I will muddle the names, so please bear with me. In 1969, by way of background, the Last Chance Urban Renewal Area was established, and pardon the typo there. This was the first iteration of urban renewal that I think most folks are familiar with when they think of urban renewal for the city. This was followed by the development of the Downtown Development Study Urban Renewal Area in 1980, and in 1990, both of those urban renewal areas were consolidated into one via Resolution 2559, which in Section 4 set forth very clear goals and objectives for funding requests outside of the specific projects that were to be funded with URA proceeds. It also afforded the commission the ability to issue bonds to finance the projects that they had outlined, such as the Great Northern Area Project. And the reason I bring up that specific, well, actually, before I get to that, this is the district boundary that we are talking about here. So it's the Great Northern on down, basically, to the bottom of Park. The reason I bring up that Great Northern project is because the city is starting to realize repayments from the loan that was made for developments down there, and that is why we now have funding available that we need to create some sideboards around how it is administered and granted out in the community. So the Section 4 goals and objectives that I mentioned before, there are 11 of them that were outlined in that Resolution 2559. And I'll go through them quickly here. The first is to develop short and long-term capital improvement and maintenance projects. The second is to promote the area as a focal point for the entirety of the city. The third is to encourage efficient housing patterns in and around the project area, and there was a clear emphasis on serving folks who are low to moderate income or the elderly. The fourth is to eliminate physical decay, and this is achieved through demolition activities. The fifth is to stimulate private investment by providing physical and economic incentives for development. The sixth is to develop a long-range fiscal program that will result in upgraded property values and spur future renewal in adjacent areas outside of the URA district. The seventh is to protect and restore the historic and architectural significance of buildings. The eighth is to encourage clustering of complementary activities and create a pleasant and diverse environment. The ninth is to promote energy efficiency for any new development or redevelopment activities. The 10th is to improve transportation connectivity for vehicles and pedestrians. And the 11th is to establish parking facilities to meet demand, basically. So as I mentioned, we have these loan proceeds from the Great Northern Area Project that are coming back to the city. And we now need to create a process through which folks can have some sort of administrative certainty about how they can request those funds and have them granted by you. So the proposed process is going to be very similar to how we operate our urban renewal districts, our modern ones, the three that we have for the downtown Railroad and Capitol Hill areas. So individuals would be able to apply directly through the City Community Development Department after first having a consultation with staff to assess eligibility of their proposed project in alignment with those goals and objectives and state law. The applications would then go before our Helena Urban Renewal TIF Advisory Board, and then those recommendations would come to you for final determination about funding. So with that, the motion before you tonight is to move to approve a resolution establishing a funding request process for proceeds from the former Consolidated Central Helena Urban Renewal Area. And I'm happy to take any questions you may have.
All right, questions or comments from the commission? Yes, Commissioner Reed.
Thank you, Mayor Dean and Senior Planner Ray. I'm not sure if this question is for you or Director Danielson, who I do not see. Do we know how much is in that fund right now?
Mayor and Commission, I would have to defer to Director Danielson. I do not know if she's available online to answer that question.
Director Danielson.
Right now, it is consolidated in with another fund, but I can do that calculation and give it to the commission.
Great. Commissioner Logan.
Mayor Dean, thank you. So I guess along those lines, as repayment happens, will the fund grow? And how long do we expect it to last?
Mayor and Commission, that is another question I would defer to Director Danielson.
Director Danielson. I think we are having technical difficulties. Madam Clerk.
Mayor and Commissioners, I just got a notification from Director Danielson that she's having trouble with her mic, so she'll be happy to provide that information to you all tomorrow.
All right. Any other questions? Yes, Commissioner Gustafson.
Thank you. This might be an obvious question. Does this resolution create the process or just say we want to create the process? Thank you.
Mayor and Commission, I'm happy to answer that question. This actually establishes the process by which people can request funding.
All right. Seeing no other questions, is there any public comment? Is there any public comment on this item? All right, seeing no public comment, any final thoughts from the commission? Well, staff, I just want to say thank you for getting this moving. I think this is actually pretty cool that we are seeing this come back to the city after 20-something years. And, you know, we now get to, this is the third generation of these funds really benefiting the community, and I'm very grateful for all the work that went into getting us to this point. All right, with that, I will entertain a motion. Yes,
Mayor
Commissioner
Dean.
Logan.
Thank you. I would move to approve a resolution establishing a funding request process for proceeds from the former Consolidated Central Helena Urban Renewal Area.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any final thoughts from the commission? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Reed.
Aye.
Commissioner Rigby.
Aye.
Commissioner Gustafson.
Aye.
Commissioner Logan.
Aye.
Mayor Dean.
Aye.
The motion carries 5-0.
All right, we're going to move on to public hearings. Item A, consider a preliminary plat extension until May 7th, 2029 for the Crossroads Amendment at Mountain View Meadows subdivision, including the Commercial Phase 2 amendment for property generally located south of Highway 12, east of Crossroads Parkway, and west of Highway 282 in Helena and Lewis and Clark County, Montana. Planner 2, Alvarez.
Thank you, Mayor and Commission. As introduced, I'm Michael Alvarez, a planner with the Community Development Department, and my item tonight is the Crossroads Amendment at Mountain View Meadows 3-year extension request. So The Crossroads Amendment at Mountain View Meadows is the preliminary plat underpinning much of Mountain View Meadows. It's a phased development, and the developer has been steadily building out those phases and bringing them into the city each year. Up on your screen is many of the phases that have been brought into the city since 2022. Just to give some historical background, on May 2nd, 2012, the Helena City Commission gave conditional preliminary approval for the Crossroad Amendment at Mountain View Meadows subdivision, creating 956 lots from approximately 442 acres. It has already been extended 4 times for a total of 11 years. One of the extensions was for 2 years and not 3. This was always envisioned as a multi-phase and many-year project that would require extensions. Also would note that it's satisfying a resolution of intent to annex that area. So as part of the criteria for evaluating an extension request, Helena City Code 12211G subdivision regulations. One of the more important things here is to evaluate it against the changes in the subdivision regulations since preliminary plat approval and whether the subdivision is substantially compliant with the new regulations. That was the bulk of the memo that you would have received. To be clear, those were changes that were already adjudicated by this board in the last extension. There just happened to be the bulk of the changes, so it's sort of a rehashing of it in that memo. The total number of extensions that they can have can go out to 20 years, so they can extend this 2 more times. It's state law. Extending the preliminary plat for an additional 3 years to May 7th, 2029 will allow the developer to complete the last remaining residential phases of the development currently under review. Staff recommends that they move to approve the preliminary plat extension until May 7th, 2029 for the Crossroads Amendment at Mountain View Meadows Parkway subdivision, including the commercial, for the property, including the commercial phase 2 amendment for property generally located south of Highway 12, east of Crossroads Parkway, and west of Highway 282 in Helena and Lewis and Clark County, Montana. I believe I gave you language that doesn't have the commercial phase 2 amendment on it, and that is the language you have first is correct, and my slide is out of date. Sorry about that. I'm happy to take your questions.
All right, questions or comments from the commission? Yes, Commissioner Gustafson.
Thank you, Mayor Dean. I was confused by what you just said. Would we make a motion that doesn't include the commercial phase? Or will you clarify what you just said? Thank you so much.
The motion language that you need to make does not, I do not believe it needs to include the commercial phase 2 amendment. You can read it as written on the agenda.
The agenda includes commercial phase 2 on page 543.
All right, read that as is then. I apologize. I confused myself.
All right. Yes, Commissioner Rigby.
Thank you, Mayor Dean. So that was kind of an avenue into my question, because you said this is the final phase of residential, and then it goes into commercial, or doing simultaneously, or?
So the next phase that they are intending to develop is, and they are present here and can probably better answer that question than I can. But it's going to be the commercial phases are coming online next. And if you want, the developer and their representative can answer what they intend to bring on next.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Worth.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. So the next phases that are actually currently under review, they're at DEQ for review right now. It's the southern end, the Peaks development, that is all residential. The remaining portions of this amendment are, the north side of the subdivision around Alice Street. Primarily, that is pre-zoned as B2. There are a couple areas along the power line that maybe some lighter residential development, but the majority of this approval after the Peaks development will be the commercial development on the north side of the project.
Great, thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Worth while he's up here?
Thank you. Yeah, one follow-up.
Yep, go ahead.
If you had a magic wand or I guess a lamp, when will Mountain View Meadows be completed? I see Mark smiling.
I think, Mayor, Commissioners, we don't have a crystal ball. The residential demand is, very steady. The commercial, I just can't speculate. That is a little bit more fickle based on the markets.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Worth while he's up here? All right, seeing none, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, any other discussion from the commission? All right, seeing none, is there any public comment on this item? Any public comment? All right, seeing none, I will entertain a motion.
Mayor Dean.
Yes, Commissioner Reed.
I move to approve a preliminary plat extension until May 7, 2029 for the Crossroads Amendment at Mountain View Meadows subdivision, including the commercial Phase 2 amendment for property generally located south of Highway 12, east of Crossroads Parkway, and west of Highway 282 in Helena and Lewis and Clark County, Montana.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Seeing no further discussion, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Reed.
Aye.
Commissioner Rigby.
Aye.
Commissioner Gustafson.
Aye.
Commissioner Logan.
Aye.
Mayor Dean.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
All right, we will move on to item B. Consider a resolution to vacate the full width of the alley right-of-way behind 901 Lindale Avenue. Director Konopky.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. We brought this forward to you a couple weeks ago. This applicant came forward to request the vacation of that area that's outlined in blue. This similar request came in 2013, but the vacating of the right-of-way lapsed. As with all vacations, per city code, vacated property goes to the adjacent property owners. Per city code, those values of the square footage adjacent to those properties are calculated by the market value set by the DOR. In this case, the applicant is proposing to build a soda shop on that property. And with that, with this approval, there are conditions to put within the new boundary lines a 10-foot utility easement centered over the existing power utility. Just the kind of standard stuff, proof of payment of all taxes, transfer fee to the city in the amount equal to the market value, and then finally submit an amended plat to the city. So right now, staff recommends to conditionally approve a resolution to vacate the full width of alley right-of-way between Lindale Avenue and Rodney Street within Block 26 of the Lockheed addition to the city of Helena. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right, any questions?
Mayor Dean.
Yes, Commissioner Logan.
Just in terms of the motion, given that all those conditions are in the resolution, we don't need to read them out in the motion, is that correct?
Mayor and Commissioners, I'll defer to
I think we can
City
just
Attorney.
conditionally approve, is that?
Mayor, Commissioner Logan, yes, that is true. It does say conditionally approve, and it's in the resolution.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, any final any additional discussion? All right, seeing none, is there any public comment? Is there any public comment? Madam Clerk, any public comment online?
Mayor, I have no public comment online.
All right, seeing no public comment, is any final Commission discussion. Seeing none, I will entertain a motion.
Mayor Dean
Yes, Commissioner Logan.
would move to conditionally approve a resolution to vacate the full width of the alley right-of-way between Lindale Avenue and Rodney Street within Block 26 of the Lockheed addition to the city of Helena.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Reed,
Aye.
Commissioner Rigby,
Aye.
Commissioner Gustafson,
Aye.
Commissioner Logan,
Aye.
Mayor Dean.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
All right, we're going to move on to item C. Consider a resolution to vacate the portion of Jackson Street right-of-way in front of 648 Jackson Street. Director Konopky.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. This was brought at the same meeting as the last one. This was, again, another item that had been brought to the commission before to vacate this right-of-way. Again, this has a couple different property owners adjacent to the right-of-way. I believe the public comment last time was given that this is going to create a parking lot, which is a better utilization of this right-of-way than what it exists now. In that, there is another conditional approval because there's city sewer and water mains and existing gas main under there. So again, staff's recommends to conditionally approve a resolution to vacate the entire triangular portion of Jackson Street right-of-way between Helena Avenue and 13th Street. Be happy to answer any questions on this vacation.
All right. Is there any commission questions or discussion? All right. Is there any public comment on this item? Any public comment on item C? Madam Clerk, is there any online?
Mayor, I see no public comment online.
All right. I will entertain a motion.
Mayor Dean,
Yes, Commissioner Reed.
I move to conditionally approve a resolution to vacate the entire triangular portion of Jackson Street right-of-way between Helena Avenue and 13th Street.
Second.
All right. It's been moved and seconded. Any final discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Reed,
Aye.
Commissioner Rigby,
Aye.
Commissioner Gustafson,
Aye.
Commissioner Logan,
Aye.
Mayor Dean.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
All right. Item D is consider a resolution to vacate 6th Avenue right-of-way between Robert Street and Sanders Street. There's a request to table this for the time being, and I will look to Director Leland to just clarify.
Mayor, Commissioner, yes, the applicant is requesting to table it just to be able to get some more clarifications. We're trying to figure out the exact wording, and just with the time frame, we weren't able to get everyone in the room with some vacations. So we're just going to table it and then bring it back.
All right. Any questions from the commission? All right. Is there any? Do you have one? Okay. Is there any public comment? Is there any public comment on this item? All right. Seeing none, I will entertain a motion.
Mayor Dean,
Yes, Commissioner Logan.
I would move to table a resolution to vacate 6th Avenue right-of-way between Robert Street and Sanders Street.
I think that's sufficient. Okay.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any final discussion? All right. Seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Reed,
Aye.
Commissioner Rigby,
Aye.
Commissioner Gustafson,
Aye.
Commissioner Logan,
Aye.
Mayor Dean.
Aye.
The motion to table carries 5-0.
All right. That brings us to item 12, public comment. Is there any general public comment on any item not noted on this agenda? Any public comment? Any public comment online?
Mayor, I see no public comment online.
Okay. Any final commission discussion? I will say I understand that we have a commission birthday this month, and I just want to say happy birthday to Commissioner Reed. All right. Seeing no additional discussion with that, this meeting is adjourned.